Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver DK Metcalf has impressed on football fields, but he will now get the chance to showcase what he can do in Hollywood. According to Samuel Long of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Metcalf will star in a new XR thriller film, Asteroid, which will feature stars such as Haley Steinfeld, Ron Perlman, Renzi Feliz, and others alongside Metcalf. The thriller is among 30 works competing in the Venice Film Festival's immersive competition, which is part of the wider Venice Immersive Showcase running from August 27th to September 6th in a dedicated space on the island of Lazaretto Vecchio, just a 3-minute Vaporetto ride from festival's main Lido di Venezia hub, Deadline wrote. It was revealed to Deadline the plot of the movie that Metcalf will star in as well. The film will premiere at the Venice Film Festival next week. Immersive thriller Asteroid follows a group of strangers who take the risk of a lifetime to travel to a nearby asteroid for the opportunity to mine for wealth beyond their wildest dreams, Deadline wrote about the movie's plot. The character Metcalf will play in movie has yet to be announced, but the movie will be available on Google Android XR. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers has 19 more years of NFL experience than some of his offensive linemen. So, it's not surprising the 41-year-old quarterback had a message for the Pittsburgh Steelers line early in training camp. Rodgers shared while appearing on the latest episode of Cameron Hayward's Not Just Football podcast, which was released Tuesday, that he delivered that message through some tough love. Skylar Thompson got knocked down early in camp, and I walked out there like, what the hell just happened? Rodgers told Hayward. I looked back, and nobody was walking out there. And I told the line, don't you ever let that happen again. I said, we gotta protect each other, and you guys are the policemen out there on the field. You're the big brothers out there. You protect everybody from DK Metcalf, to me to whoever's in their quarterback or whoever's in their running back. I don't care if it's preseason practice, whatever. You gotta protect them. Aaron Rodgers mentoring young Steelers offensive line. Steelers Depot's Alex Kozora called what Rodgers was referring to as a code between the offensive line and quarterback. There's likely few current NFL signal callers who understand that code better than Rodgers, who is entering his 21st season in the league. It didn't sound like Rodgers was encouraging his linemen to instigate fights, but he wants the line to police any attack on a Steelers quarterback. In modern football, a quarterback getting knocked down in a training camp practice is considered an attack. They happen, but when they do, fights often break out. Last year, linebacker Elandon Roberts knocked down Justin Fields at Steelers practice. A big scrum between the team's offense and defense ensued afterwards. Fans who have watched football for years might be surprised that the Steelers' offensive linemen aren't aware of the code Rodgers was referring to. But Pittsburgh's line is very young and inexperienced. 4 of the team's 5 starters are 25 or younger. 3 of Pittsburgh's projected starting linemen are entering their second NFL season. Cameron Hayward apologizes to Rodgers. With Rodgers appearing on Hayward's podcast, one of the bigger things to watch for was whether the defensive lineman would address his off-season comments on Rodgers. When Hayward's podcast co-host, Hayden Walsh, asked in March about his potential pitch to Rodgers to sign with the Steelers in 2025, Hayward provided a rather blunt response. I ain't doing that darkness retreat. I don't need any of that crap. Either you want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler or you don't, said Hayward. That's simple, that's the pitch. The defensive lineman was referencing a darkness retreat that Rodgers used in February 2023 to help him decide his future with the Green Bay Packers. Shortly after the retreat, the Packers traded Rodgers to the New York Jets. The Steelers' defensive lineman apologized to Rodgers at the beginning of his appearance on Tuesday's Not Just Football. I have to apologize, Hayward said. I guess my words were taken out of context when I said if you want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler or not. Rodgers responded that he was hurt, that Hayward used to the media to make a statement about him based on preconceived notions. The defensive lineman initially laughed when Rodgers said Hayward's comment hurt him. It's possible the quarterback was using dry sarcasm, but his tone appeared as if he was serious about being hurt. The pair had a couple awkward pauses early in the interview, but overall, Rodgers' podcast appearance with Hayward appeared to go well. The Pittsburgh Steelers are hoping to perform better than many pundits are projecting them to in the upcoming 2025 NFL season. The The Steelers went out and brought in Aaron Rodgers in free agency this summer, who will hope to provide an upgrade over the bizarre tandem of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields from a year ago. That tandem was trotted out by head coach Mike Tomlin, who famously has yet to endure a losing season in his nearly 2 decades at the helm in Pittsburgh. Some fans think that 2025 will be the year that the streak will come to an end. I think we're looking at Mike Tomlin's first losing season in 19 years of being a head coach in Pittsburgh, said former NFL player Chris Canty on ESPN's First Take. Will the streak come to an end? On paper, the Steelers have what would have been a highly talented roster in 2018. Pittsburgh brought in cornerback Jalen Ramsey this year to help out the defense, and overall, they're one of the oldest rosters in the current NFL landscape. They also made a move to bring in former Seattle Seahawks star wide receiver DK Metcalf, who will essentially act as a replacement for George Pickens, who the team dealt to the Dallas Cowboys in a move that baffled many fans. The Steelers once again figure to have one of the better defensive units in the NFL this year, although fans would certainly like to see a resolution sooner rather than later to the Cam Hayward saga. Hayward has been holding out of some of the Steelers' recent practices in hopes of securing a restructuring of his contract. The Steelers also made TJ Watt the highest-paid defensive player in league history earlier this offseason, and his presence alone should ensure that the defense is at least competent. In any case, the Steelers have one more preseason game before they kick things off for real against the New York Jets on September 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Whether that will be the start of Tomlin's first losing season in Pittsburgh remains to be seen. Prior to Week 1 kicking off, we have already seen multiple trades take place, and even more have been whispered about. The Pittsburgh Steelers could afford to add just one more piece to their offense at this point, for Aaron Rodgers and company, and there's one that makes too much sense. For months now, the Green Bay Packers have seen wide receiver ROMEO due in trade whispers and rumors. At this point, if the two sides open discussions, there's a deal that makes too much sense for both sides. Considering this is Aaron Rodgers' last hurrah, the Steelers have to go all in. And instead of going after a washed-up Randall Cobb in free agency or Allen Lazard in New York, snagging Due from Green Bay makes a lot of sense. The Pittsburgh Steelers need to make a deal happen for ROMEO Due because it makes too much sense. This trade simply makes way too much sense not to happen. From the Steelers' perspective, they're getting a wide receiver who could step in and be the team's WR2 or WR3 right away. More importantly, Due is somebody Rodgers trusts and has praised many times in the past when they were together in Green Bay. Additionally, Due would be better than some other rumored targets in recent days. From Green Bay's side of things, Due is in a contract year, and the Packers just spent 2 early draft picks on Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. They also have to make a decision on Christian Watson and the future of Dontavian Wicks. There are too many cooks in the kitchen, you could say. Due has flashed the ability to make big plays in the past, with Rodgers showcasing some back-shoulder fade talent and eye-popping end-zone grabs here and there. He hasn't fully blossomed just yet as a pro, but in Pittsburgh and next to a top-tier talent like DK Metcalf, Due would be the perfect complement. A 6th-rounder for a guy who probably won't be in Green Bay after the season could be enough to force the Packers to finally part ways. From Pittsburgh's end, it's an absolute steal. Now, is it too little of a return for Green Bay? Maybe so. If the two sides had to agree on upping it to a 5th-rounder, that would suffice as well.